There you go.
Hi, May.
How are you doing?
Yeah, great. Thanks very much. How are you?
I'm very well, very well. Thank you for joining us on a Friday. You are our last speaker today, but
What a
last but
treat.
not least, last but not least, thank you for joining. You are talking about your journey into the fashion world,
Yeah,
but
yeah, that's right.
you never thought maybe were you always a fashionista, Michael, when you were younger?
No, no. To be honest, I mean, I've always had a little sort of interest in it, I guess, and I think that's just sort of grew as I've got older, and sort of probably took it from me mum,
Oh,
in terms of trying to buy quality over quantity.
yeah. Well,
So
why don't
yeah.
you introduce yourself? Why don't you tell everyone a bit about who you are, and your background, because you are originally from Liverpool. I can hear the accent.
Yeah, absolutely. Originally, and still am living in Liverpool. So yeah, so I think, so background wise, yeah. So I think, since I sort of started work, I started work at 12 as like a paper round, was sort of my introduction into the workplace. Um, so yeah, so we sort of started then. I think then, I think like as I've sort of like gone on through my career, I started off at Littlewoods as a call center operative for a few years, worked my way up into different roles in there. Went to uni at the same time, so sort of juggled like a bit of experience of work and sort of like trying to get an education side of things in as well and see how that went. Then I started my own business out of uni because I wanted to just sort of try and put what I'd learned into practice a little bit. So that was like an advertising and print company. Um, and then we were delivering basically to different houses around the region, and we just wanted to then try something ourselves. Me and my good friend at uni. So we started a comedy club. Because we honestly like we just sort of like to laugh and sort of always had a good sense of humor. So we started a comedy club. That was Hot Water Comedy Club, which is still going now to this day. I don't have any part of it now, but yeah, it's still going strong. Um, and then after that, I wanted to sort of try and get a little bit of a hand in something I was equally passionate about, but like as a wider company. So started working for Microsoft, um, and then worked for them in Liverpool, and then also moved to Germany for a short period of time. Um, and then I wanted to sort of really go back to the UK and sort of settle down there and work for a company that I loved. So I sort of took a huge demotion and went back to start working at Apple as just like a shop floor, kind of customer service like sales associate, and then worked my way up in Apple. Um, and then went back to the comedy club as they were expanding as a project manager for a year, and then found the job at Burberry, and that sort of linked everything quite nicely around passion points and then also my experience and sort of what I wanted to do forward. And that brings me to the role now. So yeah, that's a whistle stop tour anyway.
Whistle stop tour, but I like nice to know that it was squiggly. Yeah, we just had a
Absolutely,
session
very,
about
very squiggly. Yeah.
very squiggly.
Yeah.
Probably didn't know that you were going to end up where you've ended up.
No,
Um,
no, no, absolutely not. Yeah, absolutely not. I think for me it was just sort of saying yes to opportunities that came up, um, and then also trying to sort of get out of my own head in terms of, am I good enough for this role? Will there be any sort of judgment because maybe I haven't got a certain level of qualifications to do a certain thing, or I haven't got certificates to do a certain amount of things or whatever. And my sort of outlook was sort of changed and just sort of focused around, well, what I do sort of value myself and my own ability, and then I've always sort of worked hard, and it's that mixture of sort of like being ready for an opportunity then when it presents itself and just sort of saying yes. And constantly trying to surround myself and my team with like really just nice people. I think like as I go on and where I get to, the level of recruitment now is trying to look for the person first. and then looking at developing the skills afterwards, and
Yeah.
I think that's quite important for me because I think, generally you can teach anyone anything. A lot of it will come with on the job sort of training and experience and knowledge, but getting that right person from the get-go is a tricky one. And, I think from my own experience, I know that, working hard does pay off, and it's not always about, where you're from, what qualifications you've got. Sometimes it's just getting a foot in the door and then just sort of trying hard from there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's been a big thing from my journey, I'd say.
Yeah. Sam has her hand raised. I don't know if that was a mistake, but if you do have a question, do put it in the chat, and I'm sure Michael will be
Yeah,
happy
of course.
to answer any of
Absolutely.
your
Yeah, I'd
questions.
love to. Of course.
Um, so what do you actually do at Burberry today?
Yeah, so my role is senior IT manager for EUC and digital workplace. So EUC is end user compute, which I didn't know about before I started here. So just in case anyone else is in the same boat, I didn't know what the acronym was. So basically, I look after the end user. So anyone who uses a piece of hardware in the company globally. So me and the team will support EMEA, so Europe. We'll support, included in that, the UK, APAC, the USA. So basically, all around the world, we
Are
have
you
a we
traveling
have
a lot?
teams. Travel a little bit, yeah, travel a little bit. Mostly, sort of, I'd say like Italy and France. But then within that, I also have a team that looks after exec support. So we look after all of the executives across the business. And then I also look after event support as well. Me and the team, it's not me single-handedly. Um, so we look after the IT for the fashion shows, which happen twice a year. So we do all of that behind the scenes.
So you get to go to the fashion shows.
Yes, we don't get a seat at the runway,
You front row,
but
Michael.
we behind the scenes we're sort of there. Yeah, yeah, which is a really cool experience. It's always a great energy and atmosphere at the shows, and it's a sort of pinnacle at our sort of annual event side of things, which is cool.
So what does
And
that look
then
like? Like talk us through, you're at a show and what are you
mm,
kind of doing there?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of work that goes into it, to be honest, because I think when you sort of see the show, it's 12 to 15 minutes, and it's a video, and then that's kind of done. But the work that goes on behind the scenes in advance, so we've already started working on our next show in February now, um, for that 15 minutes kind of thing. So I think, what we try to do is we try to make sure that we support everyone working towards show in advance. So it's more of that support. It's to make sure that people can actually sort of deliver on the work that they need to do for the show. So we've got creatives, we've got executives, we've got everyone in between as well. So there's a wide mix of people. So we just sort of offer that support. We then offer we go into 24-hour support on like the week before show as well, because people will work through the night and people will work all sorts of different hours. And
This
we
is
support our
anything
sorry.
technical, like or
Yeah, yeah,
IT related. So they might
yeah.
not be able to, I don't know, use their laptop or something.
Yeah, exactly. So it's making sure that people can work on the laptops, the desktops, making sure that, any sort of like anything to do with technical side of things, so printers and you wouldn't believe the amount of work that goes into preparing for that one show. So we're essentially just supporting all users, which there are hundreds of them, to make sure that they can do their work and make
Yeah.
sure that they're able to fulfill whatever they need to do. So that's kind of the gist of it, really.
I think what's really cool is you're working for one of the most creative brands. You're
Yeah.
working in the creative industries,
Hmm.
but you're not the typical creative. And I think we
Yeah,
really need
absolutely.
to, I guess, educate more people that like you can work in cool creative
100%.
companies.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Um,
100%. I think that's a big part of it, mate. So I think for me, like I'm not necessarily like super creative as a person, but I do love creative people and workplaces and environments and things. So, I could talk for hours on music, movies, fashion, architecture, art, like all of that, but I can't do any of them. But being in the room to be able to bring what I can do from like an IT perspective in that environment is the thing that I just love. And I think that's where you find your passion because each sort of each element. So my sort of biggest thing is like follow the passion, but not necessarily having to be the creative or the endpoint for that passion. It's just more being around people in that environment. So you can provide IT support to, people working on films. You can provide it in IT for music, for art. Like every single company in the world, for example, will require IT at some point. So
Mm.
then it's like if you're IT based, perfect. You just find the industry, the company that needs that, and then you can look at that. But equally, sort of, I think in advance, my perception of what IT on a company such as Burberry would look like, honestly, it was just like a small room, maybe 20 people in a room looking after IT, and that was my perception as an outsider. Inside and looking at it, there's hundreds and hundreds of people that deliver IT support globally in different elements, which is crazy. Like, even saying
Yeah.
out loud sounds crazy, but
I
it
mean, you're going
takes
to
so
Paris.
much
You're
effort.
going to Paris. You're going to
Yeah,
fashion
yeah,
shows. You're
yeah,
there, like in and
exactly.
around all the people.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And a lot of that is delivered by the team. So like I also look after the supply chain sites. So this is the cool thing. So I think for me, I look after corporate supply chain, retail, events, and exec support. Um, but you sort of see the whole sort of remit in one go. So you see the supply chain sites where we make the clothes, to begin with. That then goes over to the events where we show the clothes at fashion shows. Those clothes are then sold in London and Paris at an event called Market, where we'll get like wholesalers, retailers in to sort of buy the products for their stores for the coming months and years. Um, so those clothes then go into the retail stores, and then that's the sort of full life cycle of everything. And then we get an insight into each step of the way, which is really cool.
I think
Um,
you just hit a trick though, because I think fashion, so many people want to get into the fashion
yeah.
industry, but they're
Hmm.
kind of going down the path that everyone knows about, which is fashion designer,
Yeah.
merchandiser,
Yeah.
buyer.
Yeah.
But there's a whole nother
100%.
path.
1,000,000%. Yeah, 1,000,000%. And this is the thing, it's not just IT. I mean, we've got a huge, sustainability is another element. We've obviously got the IT side. We've then got loads of different functions within IT. So I look after end user compute digital workplace, but actually, there's also the merchandising element of that. There's general customer service, there's major incidents, there's digital, I mean, the list goes on, and all of those teams have all got different roles within it. So just in the one company, there's so many different avenues that you can sort of, if you're really good at finance, again, just a really cool company to sort
Mm,
of look at from an insight from a finance perspective, and that's a different avenue. And again,
yeah. No, I
yeah,
think I think what you've hit the nail on the head there is I think maybe people are going after the wrong thing. It shouldn't be what industry I want to work in. It should be
mm,
what skill set am I good at
yeah,
and what skill is needed across all of the industries, like
exactly,
IT,
exactly,
finance, HR, marketing.
exactly.
Um, and then if you hone in on that skill set, get better at that,
Hmm.
then one day you could work at your dream company or dream companies.
100%. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
you've worked at
100%.
Microsoft, you've worked at Apple, you've worked at
Hmm.
Burberry. How many people can say all of the brands? That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah, and again, like like just for full transparency, I wasn't incredible from a grades perspective at school. I like a lot of it genuinely is just being like hard work and just trying to get the experience and the exposure. So I think that can also put a lot of people off. It's like, oh, I've got to get a degree in fashion, or I've got to be at this, St. Martin's, or I've got to go to a certain school or background. No, like sometimes it's just about, and I think like that's the biggest thing that I've tried to do is in any company that I've worked in, I always want to. My kind of the biggest thing I could say is like to stay curious around anything that you're in and learn about what other people do because you may sort of look to them in the future. Like that one person could end up working in another role in the future and say, actually, there's a role for this, that, or the other. So I think it's also important to make good connections naturally in the companies that you're in as well, because you never know when an opportunity might come round to explore what that might look like. But again, working at Apple, honestly, like I had a really, really good job at Microsoft, company apartments, working in Germany, blah, 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 senior level for IT. But I just wasn't happy because what I was doing at that point in time, I wasn't passionate about. Um, so I just sort of thought, like, what's one of my favorite companies? And it was Apple. And so I was willing to sort of take the drop in salary, in the stature, and, all of that and literally just start as an entry level position and then work my way up. And I was at Apple for nearly 10 years, and I absolutely loved it. And again, sometimes working for great companies will bring out the best in you, but also set the standard of what you think going forward too. A lot of the experience I took from Apple, I still try to, instill in myself and the teams now going forward. And it's the same principles, you know.
Mm. No, that's amazing. And what would you do anything differently now looking back?
I think I'd probably not let doubt factor into how I would, you know, take chances. I think I was always second guessing, am I good enough? And, you know, is this enough or should I be doing something else? But actually I think like as long as I've been true to myself and try to put everything I can into whatever I do, I think that's ultimately what's sort of allowed me to have the career that I've had. So I think yeah, just trying to remove that self-doubt and worst case again, like I always think like even going for the Burberry role, like I also didn't just apply one application for Burberry and then that was it. Like, I applied for hundreds of jobs during that point in time because I was like, I just want to explore what's out there, what the job market's like. It's not easy just as you can't just sort of apply for one job and then the rest is history most of the time, right? So again, keeping options open. I think sometimes it's just about having a job to then work out what you actually really want to go into and not sort of letting that bring you down because actually building up that experience will pay dividends in the future.
Mm.
And I think having the mix of working for large corporations and then also having the mix of having my own business and then you know all of that kind of stuff, it all sort of like links in. There's always a lesson you can take from anything that I've found, and sometimes in the moment it doesn't feel like it. And then going forward, you're like, oh, that's why I should have realized at that point, or this hard stretch of work was because it was making me think and be grateful for what I've got now, or whatever. So
Yeah.
that kind of thing as well, I think really has helped.
No, yeah, and I bet you would never have guessed that you were in this position when you were 16 or 17.
No, no, not at all. I think, as I say, during that point when I was 16, 17, I was working I went to uni 8 till 5. I then worked in Littlewood 6 till 11 on the phones. So like that, it was a hard graft. That was 5 days a week. And then of a weekend, of a Friday night, I used to be a kitchen porter. So straight after Littlewoods at 11, I'd then go
Wow.
and clean dishes and I worked my way to like trainee chef of a night. And that was Friday and Saturday night until like 2, 3 a.m. But again, having that work ethic from when I was 12, doing 2 paper rounds a day before and after school, like again, that sort of got me in that
Mm,
mode. And even a little promotion then, I used to collect from the retirement homes the money for the week, and responsibility with money and experience with being accountable for making sure the money was right. And, you know, weirdly, that's probably been one of the best things I've ever done is having a paper round because it sort of got me up and out, that sort of that work ethic. And things like again, something my mum and dad have always instilled in me is like you only get out what you put in. So I've always tried to put in everything I can to try and get as much as I can back out of it. And again, that's the thing. Most of my career is just being hard work.
yeah.
I'd say, and I think that's probably the bit that is sometimes missing. I think some people
Mhm.
think they deserve or sort of should just get something, and I think that that's not always the case. You sort of need to prove yourself, and in that proving, the opportunities hopefully will present themselves, with a little bit of luck.
And patience maybe, because I think nowadays,
100%. Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
younger people, and myself, we want
Mhm.
things quickly. Like I also
Mhm.
think social media has it meant our attention spans are quicker and we want things now.
Yeah.
And especially when it comes to careers and jobs, I think it's hard as well.
Mhm.
You see influencers and you see younger people like suddenly
Yeah.
coming into lots of money and stuff, but
Yeah. Yeah.
patience is so important when it comes to your career.
100%. Yeah, 100%. I think patience and perseverance, but I think that again, speaking on behalf of myself and people around me, I think that it does pay off, and this is why like Littlewoods wasn't my dream job. No, no disrespect to Littlewoods. It just wasn't my dream job, but it was a job to get me through uni, to pay off my student loan, to sort of get me experience. Like started off as a on the phones selling Egyptian cotton bath towels at the end of calls, and like it wasn't my favorite thing, but I actually tried, and then I was a manager, then a trainer, then a deputy manager in 5 years. So, when I was like 21, I was deputy manager of the whole site because I just sort of taken that opportunity and then just tried my best at each thing. But of course, like, and for some people, that's great. Like, some people who worked there for years before me and it was their favorite thing, it worked around their lifestyle and all of that. And that's great. And I also think you need to look for stuff that works around lifestyle too, right? And it doesn't always need to be a glamorous type thinking job. Sometimes it just needs to work around your lifestyle,
Mm,
and sort of like your what you want. Like, do you want your weekends? Do you not?
mm.
Do you want your daytimes? Do you want your night times? And there's all of that to take into consideration. And for me, it's just being about saying yes to the opportunities that have come along, and then just really trying hard within it. That honestly, like I can't express that
100%.
enough. Yeah, that's been the
100%.
biggest part. Yeah,
Just focus on you, focus on your path. Like, do not compare. I think comparison is so dangerous.
yeah,
I love
yeah,
that. I love that phrase. Comparison is the thief of joy. And it is so
yeah.
true.
100%. Yeah, 100%. And that's the thing. It's like I could say that, there's other people that like in people who I've worked with in the past have gone on to have really great, careers and sort of, higher levels than me. But also some people are lower levels than me and absolutely hate the jobs. And it's even not even about the level, it's just about the job, right? Like, work takes up so much of our lives and our time. So, I think we owe it to ourselves to do something that we at least like, or do something that allows us to do the things that we like. I think that's also the other thing, you know, is having a job that's stable and secure that then allows you to do all of your stuff that you like to do, like all of your passions, whether your whole purpose in the year is to go on a couple of holidays. And also big advocate of that. I think travel has also helped me in understand and not just work, I think I went to Tokyo years ago now, but opened my eyes to the world and I've still took a lot of impact from that as well. But equally, going to London when I was younger, it was just like just getting out of the city and seeing what else is out there and seeing how different people dressed and seeing how different people sort of interacted was a huge eye opener for me. Because you sort of sometimes get, this is your little group of people, this is your little group of mates, and this is the world, right? But you sort of venture just, a couple of hours outside of that, and it's a different world entirely. So I'd
Yeah,
also
I
highly
love
recommend traveling anywhere, you know, even just
that.
another city like Liverpool to Manchester, completely different vibe, completely different set of people. But it's really cool to understand that it is like that. So another place I love going, like, so yeah.
No, incredible. Well, thank you so much for sharing your journey. Like really
Yeah,
inspiring.
pleasure. Yeah, pleasure.
And yeah, great to just hear that you can be anything you want. I genuinely do think that.
100%. Yeah, couldn't agree more. Yeah, couldn't agree
Um,
more.